Here's a question that has started millions of online arguments. Why do Americans call football soccer, while almost everyone else calls it football? Many people think Americans invented the word soccer, but that's completely wrong. In fact, the word soccer was born in England, and the story behind it is much stranger than most people realize. Hundreds of years ago, there wasn't one game called football. There were dozens. Every town had its own rules. Some games allowed carrying the ball, while others only allowed kicking it. The name football originally referred to a game played on foot, not necessarily one played with your feet. Without standard rules, every version was simply called football. Everything changed during the 1800s, when British schools tried to standardize the game. One group believed football should only be kicked. Another believed players should be allowed to carry the ball. Eventually, football split into two separate sports. One became association football. The other became rugby football. Notice something important. Both sports still included the word football. So how did the word soccer appear? Students at Oxford University loved shortening words and adding ER to the end. For example, rugby became rugger. Association football was shortened to assoc, which eventually became soccer. Yes, the word soccer is completely British. For decades, people across Britain used both football and soccer interchangeably. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, another version of football was taking shape. American football evolved from a mixture of rugby and early football traditions. By the early 1900s, when Americans said football, everyone understood they meant the sport with helmets and touchdowns. So what would they call association football? They simply kept using Britain's nickname, soccer. Canada followed the same path because Canadian football also became one of its most popular sports. Ironically, Britain eventually stopped using the very word it had invented. After the Second World War, football became Britain's overwhelmingly dominant sport. There was little need to distinguish it from rugby anymore, so the nickname slowly disappeared and people simply called it football. North America didn't make that change because football already referred to another sport. Today, most countries call the game football, while the United States and Canada mostly call it soccer. That difference has fueled debates for decades. The biggest misconception is that Americans invented the word soccer. History tells a very different story. The word was created by British students over a century ago. America simply preserved a nickname that Britain eventually abandoned. And the United States isn't even the only country that uses the word soccer. Countries like Australia often use it as well, because they have their own versions of football. Ireland sometimes does the same to distinguish it from Gaelic football. Whenever multiple sports are called football, another name becomes useful. So which name is actually correct? The answer is both. Football is the official name used by most of the world, while soccer is an old British nickname that survived in North America. So the next time someone says Americans invented the word soccer, you'll know the truth. The British created it. America simply never stopped using it. Sometimes, history is stranger than the myths we believe.